forget, you can hear the full-length, longer version wherever you get your podcasts.
Have you been approached ever to do The Masked Singer?
Yes.
Have you done it? No.
No, I was a judge on the final of the last series.
Were you? As a guest?
As a guest
Special
judge on
guest
the
judge.
one episode.
I did the last series.
And who were you? Well, you weren't in the final, were you?
I had the best result ever, actually, which is I got evicted of show one. Literally my first show.
If you just joined us, Alexander Armstrong is telling us about his lucky escape on The Masked Singer, because he's my guest today on the podcast. No guest has looked as relaxed as you look there.
Oh,
and
really?
that, for me, sums you up.
Really?
Yes, I'm being serious.
Well, it's very nice of you to say. Sorry, I'm negotiating a bit of mic and coffee work here. But
please, but seriously, and I think of you as someone who is always rather jolly. Now, I don't know what you're like at home. You might sit with your head in your hands, you know. But whenever we run into each other, which we do quite often.
We do, don't we?
You're a very happy chappy.
I am. I'm very happy. I don't know why. I think it dements a lot of people. A lot of people who know me quite well, I think, find that it's quite testing having somebody who's constantly optimistic. I am very optimistic.
Why?
That's a really very good question. There must be a very good reason for it. I used to loathe, when I was little, really loathe going to bed. It was the sort of thing I would do anything to avoid being, the moment would come when it was bath time and bedtime. And I just hated leaving the party. That was the thing. I just hated it, having to leave and just go off to bed. And I would always wake up very, very early and be really excited that it was all happening all over again.
You've always had a lot of energy.
I think I probably have, yeah.
Do you still, because going to bed, I love going to bed.
These days?
Yeah.
These days, when that funny moment comes in your life, when actually you prefer a good night's sleep to a good party. That's not to say you don't like a good party.
Yeah, but if it starts at 6 o'clock.
Oh, if it starts at 6 o'clock. And, and my wife, who's always been a terrific leaver of parties, and she always has to come and find me. I've now got to the stage where quite often I'll be sort of catching her eye, and she'll go, I think we can probably slip away now. And a good night's sleep. Yeah, that I'm afraid means drinking less as well.
Yeah.
Time was when, I didn't really see the point unless you drank an awful lot.
Mm. But you can't now.
Oh, I can, but I prefer not to.
No, I can't. I've never been a big drinker, but I much less now. I've just been away filming, and most I'd ever have was one gin and tonic in the evening.
Is that really?
And that's enough for me.
Well, that's good. That's good. I was aware I was probably sounding a bit William Hague there. But,
Hague, a conservative party, and you have to deal with Putin one way or the other.
There's a really funny story when he did If I Got News for You a few years ago. I think the first time he did it, actually, a number of years ago, they discovered that if they, at the end of a sentence, when he was talking about my wife, he always did this funny inflection. He said, well, so that's my wife. And he did it again. And so every time they were scripting for him, they always put a word that ended IFE at the last word of the sentence.
Seriously.
Never in my life.
That's
my wife.
Naughty.
I know. It's hilarious.
These policies have led to a lot of strife.
He has got, you're completely right. He has that.
In the kitchen, I like to use a fork or a knife. I used to like Eamon Andrews on This Is Your Life.
He has got that. When you first started doing that, I was thinking, is that him? And you're bloody right.
How dare you?
He's got that.
How dare you doubt one of my impressions?
Well, no, but I think this was an extemporized impression, wasn't it?
I like to think that William Hague is someone I could do it. I wanted to know him.
Yes, but he spoke like that when he was 14. So,
yeah. What's the most appealing of the dialects in the UK for you?
Oh, the most appealing?
The one you like to hear?
It's Geordie. I love hearing a Geordie accent. I love that.
Well, I've just been talking to Ross Noble, and I'd had enough after an hour.
Really? I tell you, if you go to Norway, and you listen right to people talking in Norway, See, where I come from in Northumberland, that do all that talking in the back of the throat like that. So everything guns on back there, and all the vowel sounds are formed back there. And when they talk like that, they go up and down. They've got this lovely way of talking like that. And if you go to Norway and you hear them talking, it's exactly the same. It's the same vowel sounds. It's the same. They have the same way of talking. It's like that. The inflection is exactly the same.
That's very
And it's
nice.
beautiful. I love that.
What character have you played when you did that sort of voice?
I don't think I ever had.
When you did it then, I went, oh, that reminds me
Oh,
of
I did in Armstrong and Miller. I played a window cleaner who was. We had a window cleaner who had the answer to everything, and he knew everybody had just brilliant ideas, and he would suddenly. He would talk for 20 minutes, for 20 seconds, and he would have the answer to the East-West relations. He'd have the answer to everything. The Palestine issue. He could have answers to global warming, and he would just come up with a really credible answer.
And he spoke in that sort of.
He spoke, and he would always finish and go, "Well, what do I do?" And
what do I know?
What do I do?
There's a thing that I've seen you do.
Yeah.
The prominence you see of Pointless and Classic FM.
Yeah.
A very good morning. How splendid to have your company. When I do you, that's what I say.
Yeah.
Rachmaninoff.
Rachman. Have you ever tried to do me?
Yeah, when I do, I say, thanks, Richard. But it's not really, I'm not really getting your voice. What I'm doing is I'm saying things that you say. And the thing I always say about you, this may sound as if it's been critical, it's not, is that on Pointless, you would talk to the contestants, and Ross and I were talking about this, you can tell us who is right, and you'll say, so your name is Peter Smith, and la-di-da-di-da, do you have any hobbies? And he'll say, yes, I like to kill otters and hide them under the roof of my neighbour's caravan. And you say, lovely stuff. And you carry on. And you never pursue it. Now, do you pursue it and it's edited out?
I think it's edited out. I think they edit a lot of that stuff out. We actually try. I've learnt to edit a lot of that stuff out.
I thought you don't do it because you were doing so many episodes. There is no time for that.
Oh, we tend not to now. No, I've got better at it now. Yeah. What I tend now to do is just, I kind of give them their moment and say, tell us all about yourself. Or tell us a bit more. Or if... Because the worst thing can sometimes be when you finish, you do an episode on. We do 4
You know when you
episodes
looked over your shoulder before you said that, you're doing this as a podcast.
Yeah,
okay?
I do.
So the fact that nobody is listening over there doesn't mean you can just say whatever you want.
Okay, well, still, I just wanted to make sure they're not listening over there. I don't. Everyone else can hear. Because we do 4 shows a day. Yeah. And by the end, we do 4 days a week, so we don't do Fridays. Show 4 on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Particularly when I'm doing Classic FM in the morning, so I come on after that, and then we do 4 shows. Sometimes I come in on a Monday morning, at the beginning of a Monday, Pointless. I can't quite remember if I've seen some of these people before or not, because you just can't. And I have that moment. I go, tell us all, remind us all about yourself. Remind us all.
We watched every day on a skiing holiday. That's when we first got into the show. It was on every day. We get back from skiing, we sit there. Welcome to the middle class tea break show, and we would watch it. And it soon became this thing that you would ask the person, and even if the guy said, "I've murdered my uncle and I've dismembered him, and he's at various neighbours' houses," you'd go, "Great stuff,
excellent." Well done, you. Thank you very much.
And the other one is thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. A lot of thank you, Richard. I mean,
I'd like to see a supercut of thank you, Richards.
I tell you what I'd love to see them do is if they could cut together all the electric shocks I've had from my podium over the years.
Is that right?
Yeah, a number of times I just put my like that. I'm busy chatting to someone like.
How soon did it become a hit?
It took 2 series. We did 2 mini-series. So one was of 30 episodes, so 6 weeks worth of programming. Yeah. And it went out at 2:30 on a BBC 2 afternoon.
Yeah.
You know what a BBC 2 afternoons are like. I mean, 2:30. That's their sort of that's the slot of least resistance. No one's really going to be that bothered at 2:30.
And did it pick up viewers in that slot?
It kind of did, but we had 5 sets of contestants on that thing. So there was very little time for the actual for us to have any fun, and it was also done on a real budget where there were hardly any cameras. So there was no isolated camera on Richard or on me. So anything, every time, if I ever watched it back, I found myself thinking, hang on, there was a really good gag on the back of that. But we did that. And then I said, well, the camera's not on you. Because we've only got, the camera's got to move very, it's got to, we've got to use the resources we've got.
Yeah.
And and they're few. So we cut it down to 4 pairs. And what happened, I think, when the second lot of 30 episodes was running, Stephen Fry tweeted about it. He said, I've just discovered Pointless, and I love it.
Oh.
And that just was at the point when I think, we were just beginning to see an uptick, and then suddenly there was a big uptick.
I didn't know that.
Figures.
Oh.
Stephen Fry.
Good old Stephen.
I know.
Yeah.
Has he sat in this comfortable?
No, and I keep meaning to ask him.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Well,
have a lovely
just
time,
talk about anything.
Well, exactly.
And what about for you now then? Because we have some similarities. What about for you the balance of the presenting, the main host, with the acting? Because I love your comedic acting. I would point to Hunderby as you were wonderful in Hunderby.
I adored Hunderby.
You had such a lovely quality to you in that. Julia Davis, if you haven't seen it, I don't mean Julia Davis, hello, if you haven't seen it. I'm saying it's Julia Davis's thing. Yeah. And if you haven't seen it, look it up. Alex McQueen.
I mean, the ever hilarious Alex
You
McQueen.
Played scenes with Alex in that, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, God, it was fun.
You were
it was
Brother Joseph?
Brother Joseph, yes, well remembered.
Brother Joseph.
Brojo. Yeah. Who was this terrifying Jesuit. Yeah. I can't even... I think he was Scottish, wasn't he? I think he had I think that was his voice. There was something he was very, he found most things quite revolting, I think, didn't he? Apart from his own terrible foibles, which really were revolting. Those didn't seem to disgust him as much as I think. But that's right. The Crumhorn, do you remember where we would do, he had all these tales. He'd been to the sort of, tales of the South Pacific or these islands where
that's right.
That's right. Yeah. He'd come back.
How do you make that balance between playing roles like that and being the host?
Well, I'm afraid all too easily these days because no one ever asks me to do any acting, so I don't get. If anyone wants somebody to act in a comedy, I am around. Obviously.
It's hard, though, isn't it? It is hard. After 1 o'clock.
Yeah, after 1 o'clock. That's the trouble. But no, I think that I was lined up to do, years ago, we were talking about reviving, this guy had just bought Hammer, the studio, Hammer Studios. And he was talking about reviving, what was his name? Bulldog Drummond.
Yes.
Bulldog Drummond.
Yes.
And we were in quite advanced discussions about this. Yes. We had some scripts and treatments and things being being passed around. And then I started doing Pointless. And I asked him a few months later about it. He said, oh, well, not now. No, on daytime. No. Absolutely out of the question. And I fear that was... I don't know, I just stopped doing things. Like no one. I still do Hey Dougie, which I adore, which is sort of preschool animation.
Yeah.
That I can get quite a lot of my comedy, work some comedy stuff out of my system with that.
Can you? And what about the podcast with Ben? Are you still the Two Critics? Which I really enjoy.
When I started in Classic FM, I had to stop that because I just didn't have time to do it. And
just give us a taste of that for people that don't know.
Well, they're called. It's these two characters called. Ben plays a character called Craig Children,
who talks like that. Craig Children.
And I play Martin Bain Jones, and Martin Bain Jones was. They were sort of pop reviewers when the broadsheet newspapers when they suddenly started having pop editors, in the 1980s. That was our moment, and we sort of became we rose to the fore. And
you'd be in the podcast. You sort of chat. You'd say, well, "Tell me about the bit of the beat." I loved it, the ahoy and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, ahoy! We'd always have this sort of ridiculous scene where we'd emerge, and Craig. I mean, they sort of loved each other, but drove each other up the wall.
Yes, and misunderstood each other.
Each other. And
And at the beginning, my memory is you always go, oh, what's that? Ahoy!
Ahoy!
Which is
Yes.
kind of stupid. But
Yeah.
so you're not doing now
Well, we should do
as
more
much
of those, for goodness
that
sake.
sort of thing.
But no, I would adore to do that.
On a pie chart of satisfaction,
Yeah.
I'm remembering what you did in Saxondale with Steve, where you
Yes.
played that Clarkson-esque character.
Yes. There's another impersonation I couldn't get. Just couldn't do
Oh,
Clarkson.
but you came up with, I thought, a lovely performance.
Well, you're very kind.
No, I'm serious. But I'm what I'm getting at is,
Yeah.
you must be able to fit in a bit more of that sort of thing.
Well, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that's missing is somebody asking me to do it. So yeah, it's been a while. I did I've done little guest slots in things. I mean,
Yeah.
the last one I did was in Cockroaches. Do you remember that?
I don't know that.
Big Talk made it, but that was probably 7 or 8 years ago. So
And
yeah.
your time now is taken up with, and in many senses, this is the reason you're here,
yeah,
is with writing.
yes, it is.
You remember
It is.
that?
I do remember
Yes,
that.
I know you've been broadcasting a lot today. You've been talking
Yeah.
a lot today.
Yeah.
Tell us about the book.
Well, this came about because I really had missed writing. That was the we
Because
finished
with you
doing-
and Ben, you would write together.
yeah.
Would you have other contributors as well?
We had other contributors,
Okay.
but we made it an absolute. It was the thing that made Armstrong and Miller what it was, that we had to sort of write everything, and either we'd have brilliant things from Simon Blackwell that could
Yeah.
just go in, or we'd just have to put our. I don't know how you say this word. Imprimatur.
Yes,
Imprimatur.
yes.
We had to put that on the thing. It had to. Everything had to be loved and crafted by us.
Okay.
At least produced by us. And so we sat in on all the writing sessions.
And when did the children's book idea come to you?
It came in 2014.
Yes.
And I think a combination of having children of a sort of an age where
Yeah.
actually we were doing a lot of reading out loud, a lot of
Yeah.
story time. And
You come to know which books are good and which books
Yeah,
trip
you
off
really
the
do.
tongue and which books don't.
yeah.
And you realize, this is why Roald Dahl is so, this is why Julia Donaldson is so, this is
why
why
she
Shirley
is.
Hughes is so, because they're just so enjoyable to read.
They're so enjoyable. And you're right. When actually the nice thing is, as a parent, when you remember, oh God, we're reading this, excellent.
Yeah.
And you think, well, that's great. We can enjoy. We can really have fun with this.
Yeah.
So I think it was, yes. And by then I'd done 4 years of doing Pointless and stuff like that. And I hadn't really done anything creative, and I really, really badly. So
Yes.
2014 is when I started writing this.
Right.
But yeah, it's an adventure story. I mean, it's an old-fashioned.
It's called?
It's called Evenfall, the Golden Linnet.
Mm.
And it's the first in a series of Evenfall books. And we've created this world. But it's a really lovely, and it's about things that really matter to me. And it's set in the Northeast.
Mm.
It's this boy called Sam on the cusp of his teens.
Yeah.
And he lives with his dad. His mum died when he was 5. And so it's just his dad.
The
and
dad
him.
wasn't implicated.
The dad was absolutely not implicated, but the
Good,
dad
good.
has basically never got over it. So
No.
he kind of is the parent
Yeah.
in the household. He basically keeps everything going. You know, his dad dad's not in a good way and hasn't been at all. So he lives you might imagine rather a sort of bleak start to a book, but it's not. He's this great optimist. He loves the world around him. They live in this little pebble dash, 2 up, 2 down, looking over the dual carriageway that drives out of Durham. And he loves it. He loves the road. And he spent his entire childhood sitting at that window watching the road. And he's learnt about the music of the traffic. And the traffic speaks to him.
Yeah.
And, he loves it. All the gear changes and there's something very logical about it. And what he hasn't worked out is that he actually has magic power, because he can throw his mind out. He can do these extraordinary things with his mind. But he didn't know other people can't do that.
Right.
So it's a process of him discovering that he has this power. He also discovers that his mother was part of this ancient family. This is where his powers come from.
Right. So what things can he do with his mind then, when you see him throw things out with his mind?
He can travel. He can send his vision off to see extraordinary things. But he also, on the eve of his birthday, he finds this sort of polythene bag that just looks filthy with quite angry looking writing on it, saying, "Sam, are hanging on his front door, and this is the old family seal that has been left for him, and he doesn't know who's left it for him. But that is the beginning of his powers. But he discovers not only that he has these powers, he also discovers that he's inherited from his mother's family all their enemies, and they are also after the powers that he
Where
has.
did all this come from? When on earth did you think I'm going to write a book and then it came, or were you inspired?
It came bit by bit, I think. I mean, I started just collecting things I wanted to go into the story. I was filming this thing in 2014 out in Rome called Hidden Rome,
Yes.
where we explored all these underground passages. So
really?
we walked through the Aqua Virgine, which is part of an aqueduct built by Agrippa before the birth of Christ. I mean, extraordinary, still going, still works beautifully. And it brings water in from the northeast of Rome, 20 kilometres. And they worked it all out with trigonometry, from where the source of the thing to where it comes out just above the Spanish Steps.
Oh.
It drops 5
I was above the Spanish Steps last week.
No.
Yes, and I walked around there, and I think, I think I saw water.
Well, there's water, obviously.
At the
There's that great
top.
fountain.
Yes.
But at the top of that hill, if you walk along at the top of the Spanish Steps, if you go up and turn left, you walk along, and there's a sort of stone. There's a stone, there's not pavement up here. Maybe there's a stone bit with lots of old posters and graffiti and things, and there's a steel door again in that wall that you would walk past and never notice. We met some guy there, and he just gets some keys out, opens up the steel door, and we go down this little spiral staircase.
Yeah.
You go down and down and down and down, and you come into this extraordinary aqueduct. As I say, built before the birth of Christ. And it's then we got into it. We had waders and we walked along it. It's just the most beautiful thing. Conversely, we also walked through the Cloaca Maxima, which is the old ancient sewer. And that's another exciting thing to do. I mean, still in use, like the viaduct, like the aqueduct. And that was amazing as well. So we walked through all kinds of... They had these sinkholes that had just appeared. And in Rome, they have very strict rules that you can't dig. They get very bored of archaeologists. They've just said, look, we live here. We know there's a wealth of stuff under there, but we've got to get on with living here. So please, no more digging. But if they have if a sinkhole opens up, they're given a little period of grace when the archaeologists can go in. So we were allowed into a couple of these sinkholes. And that was amazing as well. And just looking into the catacombs as well, which was fabulous. And just exploring all these things that no one would never normally see.
And you took some inspiration.
That was the
from
beginning
that.
Of it. Yeah. That was the beginning.
And did it work in, right, I'm going to write a book, or I could use that stuff, or I've got this stuff, or maybe I could write a book. How did it...
I can't really remember. I think
really?
I think I was very keen to write a story, but it had
because
to be
you wanted to do something creative, because you'd been being mine host.
Yeah.
And that's not flexing every muscle, is it? I totally understand that. I totally understand that. So what would be the ideal for you then? A bit more of a balance?
I think a bit more of a balance.
Yeah.
I think a bit more. A
daily radio show makes that hard.
It does make that hard. Yeah.
I want to see you doing more. I think you've got a really interesting comedic mind. It's a bit like when I watch Paul Whitehouse on the fishing show, and occasionally he'll do something a little bit charactery. And I go, oh, do more of that, because he's gifted.
We don't get to see his characters, do we? It's such fun.
You
it
and
is
Ben,
a lovely thing to
you
do.
and Ben,
maybe. But then somebody's got to commission it. That's the problem.
You just do live stuff. Anyway, never mind that. Never mind that. What are we doing for Christmas? Not we. You.
Well, we are doing something. We're having a very early Christmas lunch, I think, aren't we?
That's true. Yes, and I think I'm doing a reading. You'll be at that.
Oh yes, you're doing that.
And that's going to be on Classic FM. I found out today. Yes.
Yeah. Do you have? I'll talk about.
I might
this
do
later.
it as Ronnie Corbett.
I think you should. We could find you a script, maybe.
I don't know. Good King Wenceslas last looked out upon the feast of Stephen. Or was it Hugh? I don't know.
That's almost got better. It's matured.
Well, I do like to think that, Most of them. Anyway, we don't. All right. Good heavens, no. Well, look. All right. Listen.
Yes.
Come on. Let's bring this conversation.
Yeah.
If anything, Xander, I'm almost too relaxed in your company to interview you.
I'm sorry. I should.
Because I find you a very soothing presence. I find you that on the radio. You bubble away in my kitchen
Oh, well, that's nice.
in a way
then.
that's comparable
Yes.
to how I used to feel about Terry Wogan. I used to
Oh.
like that old voice. I don't know what
that
the
old
way. It's
voice.
just in the background there. And you,
Brydon.
what's that? Tchaikovsky. It's rather lovely. And that's
well, thank
one of the
you.
reasons you're very successful.
Well, thank you very much.
Pleasing presence.
No, but that's a very well. And right back at you.
Stop
Rob,
it.
for heaven's sake.
Alexander Armstrong, who died earlier today, while tributes have been flowing in Nicholas Witchell, is at the palace.